Hello everybody, welcome back to our channel kaviwebdesigns, and today I'm going to tell you all about HTML responsive. But before we jump into our chapter HTML responsive, previously we have done HTML head. We know that we can use many elements inside of them such as style, title and many more. But I have a request for you before you watch this video. If you didn't watch a previous video, please watch it right now as we're jumping into a new topic, HTML responsive. What is HTML responsive? Responsive web designs is all about creating web pages that look good on all devices. Now you may have seen portfolios that are not developed yet because they never did responsive. So it is compulsory for you to do a responsive web design, since if you do a responsive web design, people who are using phones or tablets or something especially like desktop, they will have a nice review of your website. A responsive web design will automatically adjust for different screen sizes and viewports. Responsive images. Responsive images are images that scale nicely fit any browser size. Using the width property. If the CSS width property is set to 100%, the image will be responsive and scale up and down. As you see here, we have an example of some image here, where in our example, the image source is image_girl.jpg. And here we have a style of width 100%. Now, let's go to Visual Studio Code to visualize this. As you can see here, we have the same code that was shown before, with the header 1, a paragraph, and this meta tag with the viewport. So, this is the meta tag with the viewport. With the name of viewport, the content of width equals device-width, and the initial scale of 1.0. So, we will be using this code throughout our Visual Studio Code examples. Now, let's run this to see what's going to happen. As you see here, we have a header 2 and a paragraph. Now, as you can see here, we have an image, but the image is too big. So, let's try scaling this down. So, as you can see here, it's looking very good. Now, let's scale this upwards. Now, as you can see here, the image is also trying to scale with us, making it very hard for the people to scroll up and down to see the full image. Now, let's go back to our PowerPoint presentation to learn about more. Notice that in the example above, image can be scaled up to be larger than its original size. A better solution in many cases will be to use max width property instead of the normal width property. Using the max width property, if the max width property is set to 100%, the image will scale down if it has to, but will never scale up to be larger than its original size. So what the max width property does in a summary is that it won't scale bigger than its original size, but will only scale down if it has to, when the people who are visiting the site make it smaller, so the image will make it smaller so people don't have to scroll that much. Now let's go down. Here in our example, where we have an image with the same code that was shown before, but in our style we have max width 100% and a height of auto instead of width 100%, only with 100%. Now let's go to Visual Studio Code to run this. As you see here, we have the same code that was shown before, a header 2 paragraphs. Here we have image tag. Now let's run this to see what's going to happen. As you see here, we have a header 2 on both of our paragraphs. And as you can see here, we have a window. Now, as you can see here, so when I try scaling it upwards, the image doesn't scale with the browser, but only the paragraph will browse. But when you make it smaller, the image will grow smaller. Now let's go back to our PowerPoint presentation to learn about more. Show different images depending on the browser width. The HTML picture element allows you to define different images for the different browser window sizes. Now, when you resize the window to see how the image below will change depending on its width. Here in our example, here we're using the picture element, and 3 sources, the SRC set, that means the source set. So if it's smaller than 600 pixels to 1500 pixels, it will show the image, it will show the source of image underscore small flowers.jpg with the max width of 600 pixels. Here we have our second source set, and here in our source set we have a image underscore flowers.jpg, not small flowers.jpg. The media equals to of max width 1500, and we have a normal source with the SRC set of flowers.jpg. Now in our image source, here first of all we will show the source attribute of small flowers.jpg and with the alt of flowers. Now let's go back to Visual Studio Code to run this. As you see here, we have the same code that was shown before. We have the meta tag, the header 2, a paragraph, and the picture, the same code that was shown before in the picture. Now let's run this to see what's going to happen. As you can see here, we have a header 2 and a paragraph, and we have an image which is small, which is the small flowers.jpg. Now let me scale this up. Now as soon as I go further than 1500 pixels, it changes from this small flowers.jpg to flowers.jpg. Now let's go back to our PowerPoint presentation to learn about more. Responsive text size. The text size can be set with the VW unit, which means viewport width. That way the text size will follow the size of the browser window. Here in our example, we have a header 1 where we're styling the header 1 with a font size of 3, 10 viewport width, and the context of hello world. Now let's go to Visual Studio Code to visualize this. As you can see here, we have one header, 3 paragraphs, and here we're doing some comparison where with 2 paragraphs with the same font size of 5 viewport width, but with our header 1 we have 10 viewport width, and we're comparing these 3 with this paragraph. Now let's go run this to see what's going to happen. As you can see here, we have our responsive text where when I scale it up, the text scales with it. But as you can see here, in our normal paragraph, it's like trying to make it this paragraph here doesn't have the viewport width. That means it'll scale as much as browser size is. Now, as you can see here, but with our header 1, both of our paragraphs, they are scaling as normal, just like the image would, but it's with the text. Now, let's go back to our PowerPoint presentation to learn about more. Media queries. In addition to resize text and images, it is also common to use media queries in responsive web pages. With media queries, you can define complete different styles for different browser sizes. Here, for example, we can resize the browser window to see the 3 div blocks below. They will display horizontally on larger screens and will stack vertically on smaller screens like tablet or mobile, small mobiles like Nokia and all. Now as you can see here we have an example where we're using the style attribute, styling dot left, a class of dot left, and a class of dot right, with the float of left, a width of 20%, and some comment where it's saying the width is 20% by default. Here in our second one, we're styling dot main, a class called dot main, with the float of left, a width of 60%, and a comment which is saying the width is 60% by default. Here we have some comments, and here it's saying use a media query to add breakpoint at 800 pixels. Here in our media, here we have this symbol, and then we have media screen and media screen, and then it's saying max width of 800 pixels, and then it's telling the classes dot left, dot main, and dot right to have the width of 100%, then width of 20%, or width of 60%. And here we have a comment where the comment is saying the width is 100% when the viewport is 800 pixels or smaller. Now let's go to Visual Studio Code to run this. As you see here, we have the same code that was shown before, but with the asterisk saying the box size is a border box. And here we have our header 2, a paragraph, and you have another paragraph with 3 divs, which have one div has the class of left, one div has a class of right, one div has the class of main, and they all have some paragraph where the first one is telling left menu, the second one is telling main content, the third one is saying right content. Now let's run this to see what's going to happen. As you can see here, how I had a 2 and a paragraph and another paragraph and 3 divs. Now, as you can see here, with the breakpoint of 8 below 800 pixels, it's stacking on each other. But when you move it more than 800 pixels, they start coming next to each other. The main content will be taking all of the space, but the left menu and the right content will take some space from the main content, because the main content is very important for the users. Now let's go back to our PowerPoint presentation to learn about more. Lastly, we have Bootstrap. We have a responsive web design framework. All popular CSS frameworks offer responsive design. They are free and easy to use. Bootstrap is another popular CSS framework, and here's Bootstrap, some of Bootstrap. As you can see here, we're starting a documentation of HTML. HTML, the lang attribute of English, and we have head. Inside of a head, we have a title where it's saying Bootstrap 5 example. And here we have a meta character set of UTF-8, a meta name viewport of content. We have the content of width equals device-width, which has the initial scale of 1. And here we're starting a link. Now in a link where we have a href, H-E-R-E-F, the href tag, which is linked to this HTML document to a place called Bootstrap. After it's saying it's a relationship of a style sheet, so Visual Studio Code knows it's a CSS style sheet that it has to add to this documentation. And here we have inside of a script tag, we're going to have another source, which is giving a source to JS, giving some source to JavaScript, giving like a link to the Bootstrap site with some JS implemented into it. And the script ends here, and the head and the head ends. And the body starts where we have a div which has a class called container fluid free-fly BG. BG means the color, primary, and the text white, and the text which is equal to center. Now let's go to our next one, which is a header 1 and a paragraph which is talking about some stuff. And here we have a div close, and then we started a div. We gave the parent div a class of container empty-5. Inside of the parent, we gave a div, another div of class row, and inside of that we gave a div class of call-sm-4. And there inside of our div we have a header 3, a paragraph. And here we copy the same thing for 2 more, but instead of the second div, we gave the div a class of call-sm4. We gave a header 3 and a paragraph, and we copied that same thing, but instead of a header 3, instead of column 2, we have column 3. And here in our paragraph, we have some text, dummy text, and we close in all of our divs. Now let's go to Visual Studio Code to run this. As you can see here, we have the same code that was shown before, that was explained before, but just with the extra paragraph in all of these divs, just to make it more longer. Now let's run this to see what's going to happen. As you can see here, Bootstrap made this so recognizable, and it made even change the font text, and it even made it so beautiful and all. And then it gave the background color, text color, and all of those. And now let's resize this. As you can see here, when we go to like a breakpoint where they're getting stacked on top of each other. Now let's move our viewpoint a little bit more. Now as you can see here, they're both aligned. They're aligned next to each other. Now if you go more further and further, you can see that there's more spacing and all. Now when you go more further, there's so much spacing, and making it very clear for all of the people who read this. Even in tablet, the smallest phone, will make it the most enjoyable view on this site. So that's it for today, folks. If you like this video and you want to support us, please like, share, subscribe to our channel kaviwebdesigns, and if you have any doubts, please comment in the comment box, and have a nice day. See you in the next video. Bye bye.